this chapter was like the best we've had since Tamaki stomped 3 expendables on his own. I heard some people said this was a bad chapter and I have no idea what they're talking about, like sure Togata got stripped of his quirk, but I don't know if those people were reading the same chapter as me, but he still put up a fight with Overhaul even without that quirk of his. How can you not call that pure epic? Okay, anyway, so let's just go right into this week's chapter because I have a few things that I want to talk about with this one. The gunshot. That's something that I think played a pretty big role in this week's chapter for a number of reasons, or well, it's all connected to the one big reason, but let's just start with Eri and Togata, because Togata took a bullet for Eri, literally, and that just tells us what kind of hero he wants to be. He doesn't give a damn about making a living off of hero work. That's not really why he enrolled at UA Academy. Instead, he wants to help people, and if need be, save people. That's his goal as a hero, so even though he had to sacrifice his own quirk in order to save Eri from death, he still did it because he believed it was the right thing to do. You know, I really started to like Togata in this chapter because even he took the role as an underdog pretty much, at least quirk-wise. He does still have a good physique, the right personality and all of that to not be an underdog, but quirk-wise he very much became one, and I really hope it stays that way, honestly. Not because I don't like the character or don't want him to get stronger, but because it will have a much heavier impact on the character as well as the story if he ends up being quirkless for life. Some people were speculating that they might make an antidote from Eri's quirk, but I don't see it happening. It's probably possible, but I don't see it being a thing, and the reason is because it would pretty much be an ass pull in my opinion. You have this girl with a key to potentially restoring his quirk, but in order to do that, we need to make her go through that which we saved her from ever having to go through again. It would contradict the entire mission, and Mirio would never go for it. Even if Eri agrees to it, as professional heroes, they are going to have to put their foot down and just say, no, we can't do it. It will only do more harm than it will do good, since he will still be alive and well, he just won't have his quirk. But by giving it back to him, we may have to make you relive some of the worst times of your life. That's not really something I think Horikoshi would write, since that would make the heroes no better than Overhaul, even if it's for a different reason. So the gunshot, as I said, was a very significant thing in this chapter, and we see Tamaki waking up from hearing it most likely. I mean, they're inside and no doubt there's a huge echo going, so to hear the gunshot is nothing odd really, and he seemed to understand what it was, especially that it was Mirio, which suggests that he may know what may have happened. Obviously he can't really know that for certain, but Tamaki probably reckons that, oh, there's a gun. We know the villains have made anti-quirk bullets, so most likely they have just shot whoever is likely to have run into them, and yeah, Mirio went specifically after Eri and Overhaul. You know, it's not rocket science really, and what's interesting about Tamaki reacting in particular is that he was actually the first one to suffer the effects of anti-quirk bullets, even if at that time it was not a permanent thing. So he understands Mirio's position, the feeling of no longer being able to use that part of yourself, because quirks are part of who you are, so it's like losing a body part really. Given that he's now woken up, I think he's going to make his way towards Mirio, honestly, because we know Deku just blew a hole in the wall by the end of the chapter, so he is clearly going to be there first. However, as much as I like Togata quirkless, he will be very limited in what he can do. And Deku is not all that experienced as a hero yet, so there may be a third hero having to intervene before we can see an end to this fight, and Tamaki could be that person. Now, I would prefer Nejire over Tamaki since she hasn't gotten the same amount of screen time as the other two big three members, but given what we saw in this chapter, I wouldn't be surprised if she's left out, honestly, which would be a shame, but it's still too early to tell. So after losing his quirk, Mirio still put up a big fight against Overhaul. Now, if that doesn't tell you as a reader that Togata is exceptional as a hero, then I don't even know, man. He proved that a quirk doesn't mean jack shit compared to spirit and the will to prevail. I mean, yeah, a quirk does give you an edge, but if you have a strong quirk but you have absolutely no drive to do anything heroic, you're obviously not going to be a good hero anyway. And Mirio, he just went up to Overhaul in the most epic fashion ever. He kicks Chronostasis' body onto him as a distraction so that he wouldn't just go for Mirio with his quirk until Mirio had a good foothold, and once he had put himself in a good spot, he just schools Overhaul while being quirkless. I think it was said that he was fighting quirkless for 5 minutes with Overhaul and he wasn't hit by Overhaul quirks once. So Mirio has a very good sense of fighting, and I can see why, because if you think about it like this, it took Mirio a very long time to perfect his quirk. Even at the early days of the UA Academy, he had some big struggles that he had to train very intensely in order to overcome. And if you then look at the flashback that we got of Mirio and his brother, we learned that Mirio was pretty much the only person to pursue becoming a hero because of the fact that the quirk is so complicated to master to that type of work. So his father gave up on becoming a hero simply because of the quirk, and I guess his brother didn't really want to become a hero. It's not really specified, but yeah, I guess Mirio sticked to his dream and became a hero anyway. Even if that means just saving a little girl. Now, I'm not saying that his hero days are over. I think he has great potential even without his quirk, even if he needs to adapt to a new fighting style and things like that. Hatsume can probably give him some equipment that would prove helpful in finding a new way of fighting as well. I mean, if you think about it like that. There's also the possibility that his quirk isn't even completely gone, because even though they said it was a perfected formula, who's to say that means it doesn't have a very minimal chance of still returning the quirk back to normal. So Mirio could in due time get his quirk back if he's lucky. It is not very likely, but it's not beyond the realm of possibilities. Now, I really want to talk about Deku because there's something that I've seen around, not this week, but some people were saying that Deku going up against Overhaul would make the arc really bad or whatever, but I want to defend Deku in this case actually, even though I don't really like him that much. So obviously people doesn't want Deku to fight Overhaul because they want the big three to have the spotlight. I completely understand this, there's nothing wrong with that logic really, but one thing that needs to be kept in mind is that Deku is the main character of the series, and to have him play a part against the big baddie of an arc is nothing strange. It doesn't make the arc bad or even the fight for that matter. He's not fighting Overhaul on his own, he's just being a part of that fight. As I said earlier, I have a feeling a third player will join in, and when that time comes, depending on who it is, Deku's role could be very small. But my point is that you should not be bashing him for being there when he's the main protagonist of the series. It is perfectly normal, and honestly, since he's barely done anything this arc, I don't even mind if he lands the final hit on Overhaul, although I don't really think he will. Overall, I think I would give this chapter a solid 9 out of 10 because, as I said, it's like the best chapter we've had ever since Tamaki's climax, which was really fucking good, and so was this chapter. Now we just have to wait for Nedre to play a major role, and although it may not happen in this arc, since there's like no big enemies left other than if she helps out with Overhaul, she could always be a big character in another arc, especially seeing how the big three are really new to the series, and let's just say that there will be much more of the big three in the future, I'm pretty sure, and that includes the quirkless Togata because he is still going to be a relevant character for as long as the big three are a thing. Anyway, with that said, I'll be ending this review of Boku no Hero Academia chapter 152. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and as always, if you did, please like this video if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new to my channel. This has been your favorite host Perm, and I'll see you soon.